It is not by reason alone that wars can be prevented, but by a positive life of impulses and passions antagonistic to those that lead to war. It is the life of impulse that needs to be changed, not only the life of conscious thought. Most men, when their impulse is strong, succeed in persuading themselves, usually by a subconscious selectiveness of attention, that agreeable consequences will follow from the indulgence of their impulse. Direct impulse, not desire, moves us. In our lives, impulses are the authentic force, while desires often cloak as motivations. The key is directing impulse toward life and growth, not death and decay. The war has grown, in the main, out of the life of impulse, not out of reason or desire. Each impulse produces a whole harvest of attendant beliefs. Correlative to the impulse of aggression is the impulse of resistance to aggression. Impulses may be divided into those that make for life and those that make for death. The impulses embodied in the war are among those that make for death. Any one of the impulses that make for life, if it is strong enough, will lead a man to stand out against the war. The impulses and desires of men and women, insofar as they are of real importance in their lives, are not detached one from another, but proceed from a central principle of growth and instinctive urgency leading them in a certain direction. As trees seek the light, the more developed and civilized the type of man, the more elaborate are the conditions of his growth and the more dependent they become upon the general state of the society in which he lives. The hardening and separation of the individual in the fight for freedom is inevitable. For an organic society to emerge, fundamental changes in institutions are needed to embody the new respect for individual rights demanded by modern sentiment. All institutions, if they are not to hamper individual growth, must be based as far as possible upon voluntary combination rather than the force of the law or the traditional authority of the holders of power. A nation, when it is real and not artificial, is founded upon a faint degree of instinctive liking for compatriots and a common instinctive aversion from foreigners. Real freedom, if it could be brought about, would go a long way towards destroying hatred. The essence of the state lies in its collective force, both internal, law and police, and external, warfare. While some functions are essential, the goal should be a stage above law, minimizing the need for force and preserving freedom without sacrificing order. The power of the state, absolute within its limits, enforces blind obedience, suppresses dissent, and compels citizens to endure the horrors of war, revealing a pervasive and sinister force concealed by familiarity. The power of the state extends beyond laws. It shapes public opinion through oratory and the press, creating a tyrannous force that, if intolerant, becomes as formidable an enemy to liberty as oppressive laws. The power of the state, driven by the selfish pursuit of external interests, often involves war and exploits weaker nations. Citizens acquiesce due to tribal bonds, shared fears, and historical loyalty to the sovereign. The religious element in patriotism, with its willing sacrifice and joyful merging of individual life in the nation, is essential to the strength of the state, enlisting the best in most men for national sacrifice. Patriotism, when tainted by national pride, fosters indifference to the suffering of other nations. True religion universalizes aims, tempers affection with justice, and recognizes the common needs of humanity. The state, by prioritizing efficiency in war, not only jeopardizes external security but suppresses individual initiatives, leaving citizens with a sense of helplessness and discouragement, as centralized power prevails over democratic ideals. The chief harm of the state lies in its pursuit of power, often at the expense of citizens' well-being. This fosters an autocratic mindset, perpetuates conflicts, and reveals a misplaced focus on dominance over cooperation. The excessive power of the state through war and the fear of war is a chief cause of misery, hindering men from reaching their full mental stature. Curing this power is crucial to prevent despair and foster genuine growth. The state should focus on preserving order and delegate positive purposes to free, independent organizations. Liberty thrives when initiatives, local governance, and public opinion shape a dynamic balance, fostering individual freedoms and safeguarding against tyranny. The cure for the loss of social vigor and interest in public affairs lies in empowering voluntary organizations and limiting the state's role to maintaining peace among rival interests. The worst enemy of freedom, both internally and externally, is war. War, driven not solely by rational calculation but by an innate impulse, persists as an expression of human nature. The challenge lies in distinguishing force used under neutral authority, as by the police, from force initiated by disputing parties, as in war. The war fever very seldom seizes a nation unless it believes that it will be victorious. Undoubtedly, under the influence of excitement, men overestimate their chances of success, but there is some proportion between what is hoped and what a rational man would expect. Every additional peaceful outlet for men's energies diminishes the force urging nations towards war, making it less frequent and less fierce. The problem is one of degree, capable of more or less partial solutions. The chief disadvantage of a large military state is that, when external war occurs, the area affected is greater. It is impossible to make sure of avoiding oppression by any purely mechanical guarantees. Only a liberal and humane spirit can afford real protection. The ultimate fact from which war results is not economic or political, it's the impulse to conflict rather than harmony native to most men. This impulse, not calculated self-interest, produces war and hinders the establishment of a world state. The worship of money as the ultimate test of success leads to a dead uniformity of character, diminishes the joy of life, and imposes stress that leaves communities weary, discouraged, and disillusioned. The worship of money, leading to delayed marriages, limited families, and a society obsessed with social status, has stifled the wellspring of life, rendering souls feeble, listless, and trivial, devoid of the passion that nurtures genius. The desire for family continuity makes men timid and unadventurous. It is only in the organized proletariat that the daring spirit survives which made the revolution and led the world in political thought and practice.